This
Devotees
meeting is being recorded.
devotees can put it in chat to me personally if you have any questions, or maybe at the end you can unmute and also speak. So yes, thank you, Priji. Thank you for giving your time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So, welcome all devotees for today's session on choosing the life partner. I'm very pleased to be back with everyone once again, and to speak on this particular topic. Right. So, I'll just briefly say the contents that we will be covering, and then we will dive deep into it. So, I will begin with certain definitions in our scriptures of marriage as well as wife. Now, in English, we have only one word wife, but in Sanskrit, we have several actually. And each of these words have a very specific meaning. You know, there is Dara, there is Patni, there is Kala, there is Jaya, there is Kalatra, and so on, Ardhangini. So each of these words have very specific meaning. I'm starting with these words and the meaning because when we understand the meaning of these specific words, then we understand what to look for. Because we are talking here about choosing life partner. So when we understand what our scriptures say about a wife or a husband, then we will understand what is it that we are supposed to look for. So if we don't have knowledge only what to look for, then we may exactly not know how to look for a life partner. So that is why I thought we should begin with the Sanskrit words. That's why in our scriptures, these words are considered very important, right? Because these words have very, very specific meanings and they're very deep as well. So I'm going to start with that today because it's connected to the topic. The second thing, obviously, is the heart of the session today, where I'll be talking about various parameters to consider while choosing a spouse. Briefly, we will also touch on the importance of Jyotisha. And finally, we will come back to the ground and talk about, being realistic, making peace with whatever is possible. So theoretically, we could list out so many criterias or parameters that we need to look for when we get married. But then, depending on the circumstance, depending on what options we have, depending on our age, depending on our current situation, only certain things could be possible in it, right? So this is also very important. Mhm. Just like since I work as a placement officer, I tell my students, so every student can have various criteria of what type of job he or she wants, but then you have to make peace with whatever is available also. So it's not that we are stuck with some theoretical concepts and we're waiting for 40 years to get married. Doesn't make any sense. So this is the outline of today's talk, right? So let's get into it right away. Okay, so marriage and wife, yeah, definitions. So we'll get back to some, we'll start with some definitions. So one definition, for example, we know of marriage in Sanskrit is vivaha. Vivaha means Vishishta Rupena Vahana. So that is the Amarakosh dictionary definition of this word Vivaha. Vishishta Rupena Vahana. That means a very special vehicle for perfection. What type of perfection? Eternal perfection. So a very specific vehicle to give you a companionship for eternal um, perfection. So this is a definition of vivaha. So it's a very, very deep word, right? So this is important because unlike in the Western context where marriage is a contract, here it isn't a contract like that. It is for eternal perfection. That is why sometimes we hear about Saat Janam Ka Rishta and all that in a normal course of language. But the point is, these are all geared towards eternal perfection, vivaha. Then another word is lagna. We all know lagna. Lagna means to get stuck. So somebody may look at this definition and say that, Array, this looks slightly negative. There seems to be a negative connotation to say that he's stuck, fas gaya ho. No, it's not like that. It is, the definition here is from a very positive sense, that the person is actually fixed in a particular place where he can now be stable and progress from there. So that's the meaning of this word lagna. And so just like we see bachelors, they just keep moving around, right? They don't seem to be fixed in their life in many ways. So marriage in some ways brings a stability in a person's life because he is stuck, so to speak. He's fixed in a place, in a, not only in a physical house but also his routine, everything tends to be more fixed and regulated. So that is the meaning with this particular word called as lagna. So we can see from these definitions itself how positive they are and how life enriching these definitions are. Right. Also, before going into further topics, I wish to talk about three most important marriages for in our Vedic tradition: Sita Rama, Rukmani Krishna, and Parvati Shiva. Right, because these are the three most important gods, so to speak, in the broader Vedic tradition: Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, and Lord Shiva. And each of their marriages are very, very special. Correct. In fact, in South India, I've not seen so much in North, but in South, we have this tradition of organizing the marriage of Sita Ram or Rukmini Krishna. I've seen this from my childhood, where they would have Ram Sita deities, and there would be a parents of Ram and parents of Sita. They would do Kanyadan and they would do exchange of the garlands. Entire marriage festival would be done. And then there would be prasad for everyone. So this is called Sita Kalyanam or Rukmini Kalyanam. In Tamil, that's how we call that. Kalyanam, of course, means marriage. So it was such a rich tradition which is still there, where these marriages are celebrated. Now, if you look at these marriages itself, you understand what did they look for in it. If you see Sita Ram's marriage, correct, the wedding of Sita and Ram. If you read the Ramayana, so many things come up how they actually got married. Generally, we know that Ram broke the bow and the marriage happened. But in the Ramayana, in the Aranyakand, when Sita meets Anusuya in the forest, Anusuya is asking Sita, "How did you get married?" And Sita says that when Ram broke the bow, our marriage didn't happen immediately. Janaka offered my hand to him. But Ram said, "Well, I lifted the bow because I wanted to see how this bow is. But as far as marriage is concerned, you'll have to talk to my parents." And immediately Janaka sends messengers to Dasharath Maharaj. And Dasharath Maharaj is very pleased. He immediately comes from Ayodhya to Mithila. And then they meet each other. And then the marriages happen. So she basically, Sita says that I first got married to the family of Ram and then Ram. So in this also we can see a criteria to get married or how we choose a life partner, right? So Ram and Sita, Ram is Maryada Purushottam. So he shows this example of importance of the families coming together in the marriage. It's not just the two individuals that are coming. And it's not that he just broke the bow and immediately Sita came and put the garland. We may see sometimes like that in a movie, but or some television shows we see that. But the Ramayana makes it very clear that the families had to first come together. And again, what a marriage it is, right? Vaidehi. Vaidehi means body. Vaidehi means one who is not in the bodily concept of life. And Ayodhya, Ayodhya means one who is unconquerable. Ayodha, Yoda literally Yodha we say, right? Ayodhya. That means one who cannot be conquered. So this is a marriage of someone from the kula of who cannot be conquered with someone who is not in the bodily concept of life. So you can just see the match that has happened. It's an amazing match. Correct. Similarly, Rukmini, now Rukmini Krishna marriage is slightly again different. There is a unique speciality to it. Here you may not see parents and all playing a very big role. In fact, here the parents seemed opposed, at least Rukmini's parents, but it was by personal choice. Right? Rukmini loved Krishna because she had heard about Krishna and she wrote a letter, and that's it. Krishna came and kidnapped her and they got married, which is also a very important part of marriage, right? So see, Ram is teaching, Sita and Ram are teaching one important criteria to get married: families should come together. Rukmani and Krishna are teaching some other criteria to get married. What is the criteria they are trying to teach? They are teaching that you should like each other. You should actually be in love with each other if you're getting married. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, okay, parents and all, Rukmani's parents had arranged Shishupal for her on the advice of her brother Rukmini. But Rukmini said, hey, what is this? I'm not interested in all this. And Krishna's parents, obviously, they were again not involved in this marriage per se. It was just Krishna's choice. So this is another criteria that you see. See, both of them are depicting different criteria. Now, if you come to Shiva Parvati, they depict another criteria to get married. You know what is that? In fact, among all these three marriages, you will be very surprised to know that the marriage we can learn is Shiva Parvati's marriage. One Acharya, he very nicely says, Sita Ram's marriage is Viyoga. Viyoga means too much separation. This is not something we can appreciate Sita Ram's marriage, but really we cannot live like this. All the time most of the time they were separated only, right? Only some 10 years they were in Ayodhya, then another 10 years in the forest, and they got separated. Then Ram wins Sita back, then again they get separated. So the Viyoga, their marriages. And Krishna's marriage is considered Ati Yoga. Why Ati Yoga? 16,000 marriages he had. Again, we obviously worship Krishna, we love Krishna's character, but then we cannot imitate that. We cannot marry, I mean, nobody can marry 16,000 wives and all that. So, Ati Yoga, it is too much. But Shiva Parvati's marriage, if you see, it's more grounded. It's more something that human beings can connect to. Again, you will see too much diversity between Shiva and Parvati. Parvati is very opulent. She has so many wonderful dresses and ornaments and everything. And Shiva is literally without much clothes and he's just wearing bhasma and snakes around his neck. Simple life, right? But still, they're doing well together. They're completely opposite in some ways, but still, they connect to each other very well. And very lovingly, they are with each other throughout. It is neither Ati Yoga nor Viyoga, and despite differences, they have learned to coexist. It's such a brilliant example for all of us. So this is something that we can learn from Shiva Parvati's marriage, that it's a good example for human society. Okay, so each of these three marriages have something to teach us, right? One is teaching us importance of families coming together before the marriage. One is teaching us the importance of actual love with each other before we get married. And the third is teaching that despite differences, you stay together lifelong, and you neither are in separation nor you're doing too much of anything. Okay, so such a brilliant. So these are our brilliant examples, right? This is why Ayodhya, Kashi, and Mathura. These three are the most important places, they say, in our Bharatiya Sanskriti, because these three personalities, Rama, Sita Ram, Rukmani Krishna, and Parvati and Shiva, they stand for these places. So this is where I wish to start from. Right, let's go now more ahead. So now I am going to take you to certain definitions of wife. Again, now see, the English language, it's kind of not this rich. So it has very few words. It has just one word, wife, or spouse, which is more gender neutral term. But in Sanskrit, there are so many terms for wife, and right, and each of it has its own meaning. Okay, so what we are going to do now is we are going to jump into Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, Yudhishthir Maharaj meets the Yaksha in the forest. We know the story, right? Where this Yaksha is actually Yamaraj, I mean, I'll not go into that entire story, but the key part is that Yaksha is asking many questions. And to every question, Yudhishthir Maharaj answers perfectly. So it is called Yaksha Prashna. So Yaksha Prashna. In fact, Yaksha is asking about 121 questions to Yudhishthir Maharaj. And each of the questions are brilliantly answered by Maharaj Yudhishthir, right? And later, of course, it is revealed the Yaksha is Yamaraj and so on. So there are at least there are several questions related to wife, and I'm going to go into that. And in that also we understand what to look for in a spouse. So, for example, the 33rd question in the series of 120 questions, Yaksha is asking Yudhishthir, who is the mitra of a man at home? So I'm using mitra because that is a Sanskrit term used in the Mahabharata. In English, we will only call it friend. So Yaksha is asking, who is the mitra of a man at home? Now, what is the meaning of the word mitra? Mitra means mitat trayate iti mitraha. Mitat means distressful situations. Mitat trayate iti mitraha means mitra is one who can help you in your distressful situations. And when Yudhishthir Maharaj hears this question, he immediately says that one's wife only is mitra. She is mitra. So from this we can understand who is the spouse that we are looking for. He or she is someone who is going to be with us in the time of distress, who is going to help us in the time of distress. This is a very important characteristic. So this is culture, right? So this is one thing we can understand. Another question Yaksha is asking Yudhishthir is, who is Sakha? God given Sakha to a person. Now, Sakha means what? Sakha, again in English, you have only one translation, it is friend. Samanyataha Sakaha. So the definition of the word Sakha is one who shares your situations equally with you. That means your happiness and distress, that person shares with you is called your Sakha. So Yaksha is asking, who is God given Sakha? Who is that Sakha who has been given to you by God? And Yudhishthir again answers, it is one's married wife only who is Sakha, because she shares our happiness and distress equally. In fact, there is a beautiful commentary to this particular verse as well, which says that the wife is actually a Sakha to the husband, because in our tradition we see that anything the husband the money that he gets, the good things that he gets, she also enjoys that equally. And even the troubles that he undergoes, like for example, in our Vedic tradition, if in a man's family some relative passes away, then the contamination period, so to speak, that applies not only to the man, but to his wife also, right? She's sharing that with you. So she's sharing your happiness also. She's equally sharing your distressful situations also. Okay, so this is how she actually becomes Sakha to the husband. In fact, at least in this context, it is said the other way is not so much true, at least in the term Sakha, because we know in the tradition once the Kanyadan happens, if in the girl's family somebody passes away, then the husband doesn't actually share that, right? I mean, there is no contamination period as such. So this is mainly working this particular way. But the word mitra, it applies to both people very equally. Anyway, I'm not going into the technicalities too much, but these definitions, these teachers actually, what is it that we're looking for? There's another question which Yaksha is asking, which is one of my favorite, the 112th question in the Yaksha Prashna. Yaksha is asking, Dharma, Artha, Kama are mutually contradictory. How to reconcile? Such a beautiful question. Just think about it. Dharma, Artha, Kama are mutually contradictory, right? For example, if you want Artha or prosperity, sometimes it appears as if Dharma has to be compromised in order to achieve a lot of prosperity. And if you want to enjoy Kama, then it appears as if Artha also goes away, because if you want to enjoy, then your prosperity dwindles. And also Dharma goes away, because when you want to enjoy, then sometimes you go into the adharmic mode. So this is the question Yaksha is asking. Dharma, Artha, Kama are mutually contradictory. How to reconcile? So, what a brilliant answer Yudhishthir gives. Yudhishthir says, if one has a dharmic wife, these three are reconciled. Because if one has a dharmic wife, he says, then the dharmic wife who is there, in her connection, you will have Kama as well. But that Kama does not destroy Dharma. And because she's a dharmic patni, I'll come to the definitions of patni, etc. But because she is dharmic, she will ensure that the artha is also used ultimately in connection with paramartha only. In this way, Yudhishthira doesn't give this explanation. He just says one line, but these are commentaries of acharyas who basically say that, see, if you have a dharmic wife, then these are reconciled. Okay. Now, before we just go ahead again, some more, some definitions of this term patni, okay, which is again connected to these questions. So, in Sanskrit, there are several terms. I've put up some of them on the screen here. There is masculine, there is feminine, there is neuter. In masculine, the wife is called dhara. Dhara, this word in Bhagavatam also you will sometimes see dhara. Dhara is a word used in plural. Somebody may say, Arey, why is it used in plural? Because you have only one wife. We are not Krishna having 16,000 wives. But it is used in plural, it is said out of respect. Okay, just like sometimes elderly people, we address them in plural in Indian languages, if you know. In English, you will not see that, but in Indian languages, you address elderly people in plural. So similarly, the wife is called Dhara out of respect, and also it is said because she assumes many, many roles. The Mahabharata in one place it says the wife is also like a mother sometimes, especially if the wife has given birth to a child, then because the child is a representation of the man, uh, now the wife is considered like a mother in that sense, as in she's given that respect, the respect that one gives to one's mother. So in Mahabharata, there is a place where Draupadi tells the Pandavas in the forest that, Arey, I have given birth to one son to each of you. If you could not protect me during the gambling match just because I am your wife, at least you should have considered that I have a mother status for all of you, correct? Because I have given birth to one child from each of you. So at least like a mother, you should have protected me, no? How did you simply sit and watch this? Draupadi is raising that argument to the Pandavas. So Dhara, because the wife is having several roles. She is a lover, she is a mother, she is a caretaker, everything. Okay, so plural, multiple roles she assumes. And also dharayati. Dharayati means she protects you. Okay, again in Bhagavatam, you will see this in several places where the wife is considered like a fort. She protects one from untoward situations, from illicit attractions in the outside world, and so on. So there is such a deep meaning in this word dhara, correct? Which is a masculine term. Then there is a feminine term called patni. Patni, the definition is patnyar yagnye sambandho yaya. That means the one who is connected to you by yajna. Again, it's a very deep term. That means the marriage process itself is a yajna through which you accept the hand of this girl. So she becomes patni. And also because that's one way of looking at it. And also because she helps you in yajna. No yajna a man could do traditionally without having a wife. Even anything, you always needed a wife. I remember several years back, one of our very stalwart devotees in Chopati temple, his name is Srinathji Prabhu, is no longer there with us. But once it is said that he was sitting in Radhanath Maharaj's room and Radhanath Maharaj asked him that I wish to have some program in your house on this particular day. I want to bring somebody. Is it possible? So what he did immediately from Maharaj's room, he phoned his wife and asked, Maithili Priyamataji, can we have this program? Maharaj is asking. Obviously, she said yes. But Maharaj appreciated that very much. That, hey, look at this man. Right? He's such a big person. But when I have asked him something, he immediately asks his wife first that can we have the program? And only when she says we can, he's confirming to me. Just because I'm the guru, he's just not saying yes, yes, no matter what we will. He basically asked his wife's convenience, whether it is convenient on that day for her to host this program or whatever. Because Patni is connected to Yajna, Dhana, Tapa. Anything like that, if you have to do, then you need her. Without her, you cannot do. You see the Ramayana also, even though Sita was banished to the forest, Sita was with Valmiki's ashram. When Ram had to do any Ashwamedha Yajna, a golden deity of Sita had to be kept beside him. Because without her, you cannot do anything. So Patni, connected to Yajna. Then she is also a neuter term that is Kalatram. So there is a word Kalatram. I have written Kalatra here, but actually it is Kalatram. Kalam Trayate iti Kalatram. Kalam means your it's coming from Kula. That means she is the one who protects your dynasty, your family. Okay, so that is how Kalatram comes. Okay, this role also she has. She is She protects your dynasty, your lineage, everything. She's the one who's protecting. Okay. Then she's also called as, so these are, so you just try to see, from each of these terms we can understand what role she plays, and from this we can have an understanding what we are actually looking for. Otherwise, it's not just some, not just physical attraction, but it is so much more. It is such a huge package that is coming, right? Then look at this other term in Sanskrit for the wife called Ardhangini. It's again a brilliant term. Uh, in Sanskrit, there are two terms for decimal, like zero point 0.5 we say, na? There is Ardham and uh, so there are two terms. So this is actually explained by Aryabhatta that one of the terms, Ardham, it rounds to the next decimal. Like for example, 0.48 becomes 0.5 in mathematics, right? That is called Ardham. Okay, but Ardhangini, this word that comes from another term, Ardhan, which means truncating the decimal, like 0.52 becomes 0.5. I'm sure all of you know some basic math, know that 0.48 also becomes 0.5, but 0.52 also becomes 0.5. So Ardhangini comes from a root word where it is 0.52 becoming 0.5. That's why this whole English term better half comes from, because the wife is representing something more than 0.5 in your life. So the English term better half, which we generally use for wife, this is not unique. It's not actually coming from English language. Originally it comes from the Sanskrit term. Similarly, there are so many other terms also. She's also called samsara. Samsara, we know samsara means the material existence. This again, simply try to understand. It can be seen in a positive, in a negative connotation also. For someone who is not properly directed to dharmic life, she may become an entangling feature in the material existence, which we see that in our scriptures. But if someone is rightly oriented in dharma, she can actually help you navigate through samsara well. So it just depends on how you look at it. Okay, so these are various terms in our scriptures which talk about wives and even about husband. Though since we did Nityanand Sabha, and I presume that primarily there are boys over here, I spoke more from the terminology of wife. Even for pati, the word pati in Sanskrit comes from patya. That means one who protects. That means one who can protect financially, one who can protect emotionally, one who can protect physically, one who can protect mentally, right? So spiritually. So all this. So protection, patya. If that is there, then the person is pati. Otherwise, he is not, right? So I started with these definitions in order to emphasize the point that we need to know what marriage, what wife, husband, what our scriptures speak about it, so that we can really understand what we are looking for, right? I mean, this is what actually we are looking for. If somebody is a Nityanand Sabha boy here looking for a wife, he is basically looking for someone, right, who will protect his kula, who will be with him in every yajna, who will be protecting him like a mother, like a lover and everything. Okay, so this is what you're looking for. So only when you know what you're looking for, you're looking for someone who's going to be your friend in times of distress, mitatrayate, one who shares your happiness and distress equally with you, sakha, and one who will reconcile dharma, artha, kama. So that's why I went through these definitions. Yeah. Now let's go ahead. Yeah. Now the next thing, right? What to look for when we consider a match. So let's start with this. So for this, I wish to speak briefly about. Perhaps many of you may have heard this before in some other session, so I'll not elaborate this too much, but I will speak about it briefly. How our Upanishads talk about 5 koshas of our existence. Kosha means sheath, like a sword is in a sheath, right? A covering. So similarly, each of us as a personality, we have 5 coverings to us. So why I'm speaking about it, when we say marriage matching, when we are looking for a spouse, we are looking for someone who matches in all these parameters primarily. Okay, so let's see what they are. First is called as the Annamaya Kosha, that means the body. Right? When I say body, it means the senses, Okay, so here all the physical looks, right? That is also very important. No? When you see a man and a woman who are married, they should match each other in some way, right? Even physically, they should look. When you look at a couple, then you should get a feeling that yes, they look at least made for each other, right? So even the body that should match. So that's why looks have a role in Annamaya. Then pranamaya, energy. Okay, so anyway, I'll just go through these koshas first, and then we will discuss that. So the first kosha is annamaya, which means body, senses. Now again, senses means sensory attraction in general, enjoyment for the senses. So all that comes in annamaya. Pranamaya is energy, correct? The kind of energy the person has. Okay, especially this can be even related to earning of wealth and so on. Manomaya is the mind, the way we look at relationships with society, with our family, and so on. So that is Manomaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya is intellect. Each of us have that intellect component also, right? If someone is a very intellectual person, intellect as in he may have even uh, even among people in general, if you see intellectual levels are different with different people, right? Somebody can be highly intellectual, somebody can be more emotional. Then their manomaya kosha is more, intellectual kosha is less, right? And then finally there is anandamaya kosha. Anandamaya kosha is how we relate to God. So actually, as devotees, our bhakti part is coming in the anandamaya kosha part. So when we say matching, then we are looking for a person by and large who matches each of these parameters in some way. Correct. Like we generally say that as a devotee, I want a partner, a spouse who's also a devotee or aspiring to be a devotee. As in having the same goals. That means we are talking about matching on the Anandamaya platform. Correct. That is Anandamaya platform matching. We are saying devotee matching. But then the other matchings have also their own importance. Like intellectual, Vijnanamaya Kosha. If one of the parties is intellectual, then you need a partner also who can share your intellectual quest in life, correct? Because that's also a part of life where you are going to talk about deep things. It may be related to philosophy, it may be related to anything happening in the world. You should have an intellectual match also between two people, correct? Then only you can, because husband wife means you're going to live together for so many years. People get married at the age of 25, 30, assuming they live 75, 80 years of age. It's a long innings of 50, 60 years. So some kind of intellectual match must be there, correct? Then manomaya kosha, right? In terms of relationships, the way we value family, the way we way we look at these aspects of relationships, family, and so on. That also has to have some matching. Some kind of hobbies like music and all come in manomaya kosha. If somebody is interested in music, poetry, so on and so forth. So some level of such matching also helps to sync with each other, because when we are going to stay together, then you need some hobbies also common, right? You need some kind of similar attraction. Let's say the man likes some Carnatic music or some Shastriya Sangeet, so he wants to go to the concert of some right. In Pune sometimes there are many such events of Shastriya Sangeet where there are correct, like Pandit Bhimsen Joshi was from Pune. He started the Savai Gandharva festival. So I'm just giving an example. Suppose the man likes it, then ideally if his wife also has similar interests, hobbies, then they can go together and sit there. Otherwise, this poor fellow will always have to go alone only because he has different interests only. So those type of hobby matches in Manomaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, energy, aspirations for money, wealth, in general, physical fitness, etc. There has to be some match there also. And Annamaya Kosha, how you look also. Okay, so this looks very overwhelming if you look at it, because it seems that there are so many things to match, right? Physically matching, financial, energy levels, right? Your career and so on. All that comes in pranamaya. Then manomaya is the mind, hobbies, music, poetry, and relationships, intellectual matching, and finally the devotional matching also. That doesn't, by and large, having the same goal towards Krishna, correct? Anandamaya kosha. So at one level, somebody may hear this and feel that, array, this looks too much. But it's not like that. Many times it's very easily possible. There are some standard ways in which possible. Let's explore that. Let's go into this further more. Okay, so So for this, first I would like to say how in our scriptures, that's why. So I'm just going to take 3 points, and then of course we look at some verses from the Bhagavatam also on this. Maybe I'll start with this verse, and I'll come back to this point. So this is from the third canto, 24th chapter, text 15. So this is spoken by Lord Brahmaji when he comes with 9 sages. So the story is there is Kardama Muni, who along with Devahuti, who has married Devahuti, and they have 9 daughters. And then they have a son Kapila, but that is much later. But initially they have 9 daughters. So Brahmaji has 9 sons, like Marichi, Vashishta, Atri, and so on. So 9 sons he has. So all these 9 sons are looking for suitable partners. So Brahmaji comes with his 9 sons to Kardama Muni's house. And basically he tells Kardama, look at this verse, Atastam Rishi Mukhebhyo Yatashilam Yataruchi Atmaja Paridehadhya Vistirnihi Yasho Bhuvi. He says, therefore, today, please give away your daughters to the foremost of the sages with due regard to the girls' temperaments and likings, and thereby spread your fame all over the universe. It's a very interesting verse if you think about it, because generally, when you look at the painting, uh, you will see Brahmaji coming with 9 sages. All sages are looking similar only externally, right? They're skinny people and having a long beard, some jata, right? Wearing some mala in their hand. So, like that, 9 sages come. And there are these 9 beautiful daughters of Kartama. Somebody may say, Arey, you can just match. Anyway, you match, what difference it's going to make? All these are sages. All these are girls here who are also, and these girls are also not some ordinary girls. They are born to Kartama Muni, who is also a great rishi only. He did a 10,000-year tapasya to Lord Vishnu to obtain his wife Devahuti. So that being the case, someone may say that you can just match any way. How does it matter? But Brahmaji says, Yata Shilam Yata Ruchi. With regard to the girl's temperaments and likings, you match these 9 daughters to these 9 rishis. Okay. So Prabhupada's purport in the Bhagavatam also is very interesting. Prabhupada says there that the daughters should be handed over to the respective rishis not blindly, but according to the combination of character and taste. This is the art of combining a man and woman. Man and woman should not be united simply on consideration of sex life. There are other considerations, character and taste. If the taste and character differ between man and woman, their combination will be unhappy, Prabhupada says. Even 40 years ago in Indian marriages, the taste and character of boy and girl were first of all matched and they were allowed to marry. This was done under the direction of their parents. So you can please read the entire purport. I just read 5 sentences from it. The point here is that character and taste had to be matched. Now, what is this character and taste? This is exactly what I was telling earlier. There are different koshas, right? Each person has 5 koshas, if you remember, a particular type of intellect, particular type of hobbies, particular type of enthusiasm in life, pranamaya kosha, particular type of physical appearance. This is actually character taste. This has to match, correct? And if this matches, this is the first thing which is very important in consideration here. And this is what I was telling earlier also when I told about the marriage of Rukmini and Krishna. It was the taste that mattered, right? She basically, both of them, they really liked each other. Of course, that's an eternal marriage, but still, that's giving an example for human beings. Now, please try to understand that in our human society also, this marriage where character and taste and nature actually uh, is also important. So this is also treated very important in our scriptures. I'll just take a couple of examples for you to understand this. If you see, our great country is called Bharata. It is because of the king Bharata, who was the ancestor of the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And his parents are basically Shakuntala and Dushyanta. Correct? Shakuntala and Dushyanta give birth to Bharat Maharaj, based on whom our country is called Bharata. Now, the Shakuntala Dushyanta, their marriage is very interesting. The story is Dushyanta is a king and he goes for hunting. And as he's hunting, he feels thirsty. So he finds a ashram of a sage. He goes to the ashram and there is a young woman who is Shakuntala. So he accepts water from her. And as he accepts water from her, he looks at her and he falls in love with her. And it is very Now, please try to understand. That was actually the ashram of Kanva Maharshi. And Kanva Maharshi had gone somewhere outside. So Kanva was not there over there. Shakuntala was there alone in the house. So Dushyanta looks at Shakuntala and he says that I have fallen in love with you, which means, he says, now please try to understand this. He says that you cannot be a Brahmani. You have to be a daughter of a Kshatriya only, because my heart is fixed in dharma. So if I like someone, it cannot be possible that that person is completely different from my existence. So Shakuntala says, yes, indeed. I'm actually, though I'm staying here in Kanva Muni's ashram, he's my adopted father. My actual parents are Vishwamitra and Menaka. Correct. So from Vishwamitra and Menaka's marriage comes, union comes Shakuntala. And Shakuntala was adopted by Kanva Rishi. So she basically says, I'm not actually the daughter of a Brahmana. You can consider me a Kshatrani only. And then basically he kind of proposes to her. They spend the night together. It said that they get married by Gandharva Vivaha, just by mutual acceptance. And next day morning he leaves and goes, and he tells that when our son is born to you, because they had spent the night together, you come back with him. And then that whole story goes that when Kanva Rishi comes, he actually congratulates Shakuntala, saying that you made a very good choice. If you see in one way, now the story looks very modern, because in modern times also we see some man looks at a girl and he likes her and he spends the night and so on. It looks very modern here. There's no parent, nothing. Apparently, there is no pandit or purohit doing some marriage also. It is just the man and the woman. But the point here is you need to understand these people were fixed in dharma. That is why they had such clarity about their character, nature, and taste. So in modern times, what can happen is we cannot just blindly imitate these people, because we may fall in love with someone just because they are externally sexually appealing or whatever, and we may do something like that. But it doesn't really necessarily mean that they have to be a perfect match for you in that sense. So it may be, it may not be, but please try to understand the point I'm saying, the importance of character and taste here, right? Character, nature, and taste. Okay, they both just sync with each other immediately at first look. And well, that's it. They spend the night, and then next day when Kanva comes, he congratulates. And later the whole story we know that Shakuntala goes back. Initially there is some drama, but Dushyanta accepts her, and then that son Bharata becomes Bharat Maharaj, correct? Great king later. So this is character and taste. So this is considered a very important parameter: character, nature, and taste. There has to be that sync. And if you ask me how character, nature, and taste should align, then these are the five koshas. This is my answer. They should align like this. All these things should align. Then character and taste has aligned. The body has to align. That's why, please try to understand. That is why people would marry in the similar jati also. Because this jati or varna which is there, this generally gave an indication of similarity in these koshas. Like if you see a Brahmana man and a Brahmana woman, generally they will have similar in these, their intellect will be similar. Like we see that in our scriptures, there is Gargi, or there are all these ladies also who are philosophically as astute as their husbands. Correct? They're asking so many questions, and Maitreyi, Gargi. You see examples like this in our scriptures. Right? So somebody is of a Brahmana Varna. Similarly, Kshatriya. If somebody is Kshatriya Varna, then again the man and the woman, their five koshas also by and large tend to match. Okay, so this jati also ensured the match of these koshas in general. Okay, so this is how, but then in that also there were some fine tunings. It's not that any kshatriya could be married to any other kshatriya. In that also there were fine tunings, right? Like going back to the example of the 9 sons of Brahma. The 9 sons of Brahma were all sons of Brahma. They were Brahmanas, and the daughters of Kardama Muni were also primarily Brahminical only in their entire upbringing and everything. Correct. But again, so it's not that just because they're Brahman, you can just marry like that. In that also there are some fine tunings in terms of their likings and their natures, etc. So Varna gave a broad indication that okay, koshas will match. If the Varna doesn't match, then again the koshas are very much different. Correct. Like for example, if the one party is very Brahminical and other party is mercantile, Vaishya oriented, then their intellect will be very different. The Brahmana will be primarily trying to use the intellect for appreciating nuances in philosophy, etc. Whereas the Vaishya also has intellect, but that intellect is how to make more money by business, which is also very important in Dharma. Okay, so then that match again doesn't be so good, right? Because it's slightly different, the way you're looking at life. So the koshas provided a primary framework for character and taste. That is why varna jati is the parameter in matching. But besides that, there are fine tuning in that also, right? Whether it can go well with each other. So these were considerations in a marriage, and then finally Anandamay kosha also. Right? And this is not just one story. You have so many stories in the scripture. Just I'll take another example: the marriage of Satyavan Savitri. Again, a very very bold and modern outlook to marriage. The story is that Savitri is a grown-up lady, grown-up girl, and her father is worried that she's not yet married. So what he does is he tells Savitri that I will give you a small army for your protection. You travel all around Bharata Bhumi and find some man who is suitable to you and come and tell me. I'll arrange the marriage. Can you imagine the confidence he had in his daughter? He knew that she will find a good match. Because, see, when you have the right kind of investment in your life of dharma, then you can be confident that your choice will not violate dharma. So, Savitri's father is very confident that if I send my girl across India, Bharata, she will travel, and just for her protection, one small army was given. That's all. The army was not to supervise her or something. See, that's the confidence he had in the girl. And the girl was also bold enough. She actually went. And the story is she went all over Bharata Bhumi and came back and said that I have fallen in love with Satyavan. Please arrange my wedding. And of course, Narad Muni comes and says, Array, that Satyavan will die in 1 year according to his horoscope or whatever. But then there is a whole story how that Savitri is a chaste woman and she, by her tapasya, she changes the karma and ensures that Satyavan stays with her forever and so on. Ever as in 300 years life, whatever. So that's a different story. But what you see again there is the matching. Correct. The matching of Satyavan Savitri was done according to character taste. Correct. And this character taste, one way you understand character taste is by this parameter called as Varna. Okay, so Varna is literally color, Jati is group. So now see what has happened in India today due to too much of urbanization and due to breakdown of joint families. A lot of this is destroyed, but again, it's not that it is completely destroyed also. As in even today, if you see different people from different jati background, unka rehen sehen, khana pina, their styles, their general intellectual quest in life, they tend to be similar. Okay, so this also acts as one parameter. That's why caste. Of course, see, we use the word caste nowadays, but that's a more that has a slightly different connotation. I'm not going with that. But this word like jati is grouping actually. Varna is color. So based on these, why marriages were done? Because they ensured some match in character, taste, and nature. Correct. And so, though I'm saying both things, though it is true that in India today, due to urbanization and due to breakage of joint family, these two main reasons, a lot of it is destroyed, but it is not completely destroyed as well. Like Prabhupada would always say, the elephant, even if it is dead, it is still very valuable. Okay, so similarly, the Indian Varnashram system in general, by and large, it looks to be dead in many ways due to all these other reasons I said, but still it has some value in it. So you will see even today. That's why marriages, when they're done in similar Varna Jati, sometimes they help actually because these type of quests in life tend to be similar. Correct, in Kshatriya families, in Vaishya families, in some Shudra families, Brahmana families, they tend to be very similar. The way you look at life. Again, going back because we said marriages between families, like in Sita and Ram, this sometimes helps. But of course, yes, the devotional viewpoint is already covered. I told you that in the Anandamaya Kosha, because matching between Anandamaya Kosha means you have similar aspirations. So sometimes somebody may feel that okay, if the Anandamaya Kosha matches, then rest everything can be managed. I would say it is true and also not true in some ways. It is true in a sense that yes, at least the most important thing you may say Anandamaya Kosha, the the aspect of being a devotee of Krishna has matched. So that is at least good. So that is some starting point. But then in life, what happens is, in normal family life, there are so many other, when you live with someone for so many years, you don't live with just with a person, you connect with all aspects of life, earning money, hobbies, connecting to family members, having children, value system. So many of these things come from our varna background, actually jati background. That is why that match also helps. So I will say that if people can get married in their similar jati varna and keeping the devotional thing also, giving its importance to it, that is the best if you can do both, because they have different purposes. I think I've highlighted that enough with all the examples that we discussed. Then the third thing parameter to consider, which I have written down here, is called as karma. Okay, just one more thing I'll say. There's a very beautiful sentence I came across once. It says that, when Prabhupada disciple said this point, when two people have enough in common to connect with and understand each other, and enough that is different to attract and complement each other, they are said to be compatible. It's a definition of the word compatible. I'm reading it again. When two people have enough in common to connect with and understand each other. Okay, so you should have something in common also with a partner to connect and understand each other. And also there is some difference to attract and complement each other. Okay, because there will be some things that I may not be able to do. Maybe let's say someone is not able to give a good talk or things like that. Maybe the spouse has that ability that becomes attractive to you. Okay, I may not be able to do it, but that person can do. I may like music, I may not be able to sing, but maybe my wife or my husband can sing well. So that becomes attractive. So it's not that common means everything should be exact common. No, life is never like that. Okay, so that's why she says that there has to be something common to connect with, and also some differences to complement and attract. Because the difference actually attracts. We see that, okay, because we may have some aspiration to have a particular quality in us, but I may not be having that for some reason. But if my partner has that particular quality, then that complements me, as in both of us together, we complete something, and it also attracts us. Okay, but one has to understand in this context that the differences cannot be in certain basic value systems of life, correct? So I mean, I'll just give some little gross examples first, and then maybe we'll take some subtle examples also. So I remember, there was one case of marriage in Pune only some time ago, where this boy devotee, he married to another girl, and this boy, he was not at all interested in physical relationships for some reason. He was not exactly a homosexual also. For some reason, he had no interest in any physical relationship with neither boy nor girl. He was that type of a person. So now this you cannot say that, "Arey, this is opposite, so it will attract the girl." No, it will not, because this is something very fundamental, correct? So the girl, I mean, that marriage actually broke down in a month, because the girl obviously was frustrated in a month, saying that what a husband I have, not even once he wants even to touch me or whatever. So she, I mean, immediately broke up, and she was very disappointed and also angry with the boy and the family that they did not reveal such an important thing, that this fellow has no physical interest at all in life, which basically means he's unfit for marriage itself. So I'm giving this as an example to say that something which is now again, somebody may say that now there may be some girls who are also like that. I know such marriages also, where the girl also doesn't want anything like that. Then it's fine. The boy also doesn't want at all physical relation. Girl also doesn't want at all, and if they want to come together just to live together, that's an arrangement between them. Though of course marriage is not meant for that, but if such people exist, and if it is informed in prior, then at least that is okay. But you have nobody has a right to spoil somebody's life, by hiding such fundamental facts in marriage. Okay, so that's why actually nowadays increasingly you need to find out also about the other person, right? Sometimes this is not very, in this case what had happened was, the boy and the girl, they didn't have any they didn't spend time before the marriage. That means, between engagement and marriage, there should be some 6 months where you spend some time at least, kind of talking to each other and understanding each other before marriage. That is also very important. You understand whether this person we are getting married to is actually the right person that we want. In this case, what had happened was that boy and girl never spent, for some reason, some complicated reason, they were never spent any time with each other. And only after the marriage, the girl realized that the boy is like this. So this is not what I'm referring to here, which is completely opposite. No, this is opposite, but this is not going to attract you. This is not complementing you. This is actually breaking your whole value system. Correct. So I'm talking about some quality that I may want, but I don't have it. I may like to sing well. I may like to give a nice talk. I may like to deal with people nicely, but I may be lacking in these qualities. But if my spouse has these qualities, then she attracts me because then she completes me in some way. And maybe I will have some quality that perhaps she doesn't have, so I complete her in some way. So this is what I mean by saying that two people should have something common to connect and understand each other, and at the same time they should have something different to attract and complement each other. Correct. So the period between engagement to marriage is also important, where you kind of understand these things, and of course that should be done kind of proper barriers, and one should ensure in today's world that that has its importance. Otherwise somebody may be in for a complete surprise after marriage that, "Arey, this is something that I never expected." So anyway, so this is character, taste, and varna. And finally, another important parameter to consider in marriage is karma. Karma means, please try to understand, each of us come with our karma. So our karmas must also match. And these karmas are matched by astrology. Okay, so please try to understand marriage. Now, there are three things. If you look at it, like I'm sure in our basic device course, all of you have learned this thing: Pratyaksha, Anumana, Shabda, Praman. Correct. Pratyaksha means by sense perception. When you look at someone whom you're going to get married to, there has to be, by sense perception, there has to be some match, right? Like Dushyanta saw Shakuntala, or Rukmini heard about Krishna. So sense perception. Then, of course, Rukmini actually heard about Narada, but still it is, I'm talking in terms of Pratyaksha. Anumana is again done by family. When you get married to someone, then you look at their family. You generally go to each other's home. You meet the parents. You see unka rehen sehen kaisa hai, how they keep the house, how they spend money. So from that you can make anumana about their general lifestyle. So that also helps. And then finally Shabda. Shabda means the astrology should say whether you both match. That is karma. Because each of us come to this world with a particular karma, and one cannot you know neglect that at all. Personally, I have been a student of astrology since almost 1.5 years now, and so many marriages I have seen, which, when we see the patrika of somebody who's married, like typically sometimes somebody is not doing well in their marriage, and if they come for counseling nowadays, I ask the patrika only. I ask them, "Hey, did you match your patrika first of all?" And in so many cases, I was surprised that their Patrika absolutely doesn't match. There are fundamental problems in Patrika. Somehow they just got married ignoring it. That's again a very big risk because the karma is not matching. So, see, Patrika not only talks about karma, Patrika also in some way talks about nature of a person. This character test. That's why if you see previously how people got married, only two things they did. They married in their own jati and they checked Patrika. These two, by and large, cover everything because marriage in the own jati ensure that match in terms of those whatever I said, right? Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, by and large. And Patrika ensured your karma matches, and again, Patrika ensures that some type of ganas also match, like Devagan, Manushyagan, Rakshasgan. I'm not going with the technicalities of astrology because you may not know that, but some basic nature of a person also matches. That also Patrika. So these two things by and large covered everything. The traditional Indian marriage system, which actually did only two things: marry in jati, match patrika. Yes, these two things ensured by and large everything is good. And then they obviously met physically also, just to see, okay, whether there is some liking, whether the boy and the girl, at least in looks and some basic value systems, they appeal to each other, etc. This much was enough actually. So this was how India in our country functioned until very recently, correct? And I think that this has a very important value. We cannot let go of this. So please check Patrika because there are some very important things to match. Nakshatra, the nakshatra of the boy and the girl, I'm not going into the technicalities because it will become an astrology class otherwise. But you should have a proper astrologer who helps you with this. The Rashi, Lagna, Shashtastamam, they should be six. So they should not be at 6-8 position, and in conflicting planets like Surya, Shani, etc. Dasha Sandhi. That means, we have all of us have in our life something called dasha. Like किसी का शनि दशा चल रहा है, किसी का गुरु दशा चल रहा है. So astrology says that so that means when you match the boy and the girl, they should not have the same dasha at same time in life. That means किसी का 7.5 चल रहा है और दूसरे का भी 7.5 उसी टाइम चल रहा है, right? Shani dasha or whatever, it's going at the same time. Shukra dasha, and here let us say Guru dasha is going on. Now in astrology, Guru and Shukra are enemies because one is the Guru of Guru is Brihaspati. He is the Guru of the Devatas, and Shukracharya is the Guru of the Asuras. So their dasha comes at the same time in life for us. Sometimes Sandhi means matching. Then it is guaranteed that there will be problem by and large, unless some exceptions hold. So of course, all of these things have some exceptions also. So that's why you cannot just match on the computer or something. You need to go to some person who has some decent knowledge of Jyotisha and who can match and help you and understand. Array, this matches. Okay, please go ahead. That green signal you need. Without which this becomes very dangerous. Okay, so now just coming to the conclusion and also summarize whatever we did. Okay, so I'll just summarize the first 3 points that I spoke, then I'll speak the last point and then take questions. The first point I started with about marriage and wife. I said marriage as Vivaha, Lagna. I spoke about their meanings. I spoke about 3 important marriages: Sita Ram, which shows family importance; Rukmini Krishna, which shows individual choice; Parvati Shiva, which shows how complementary they are, how different they are, but still how they stay together without Ati Yoga and Viyoga. Then I spoke about wife, the different names of wife in our Mahabharata. Correct? Yeah, from Yaksha Prashna, how she is a Mitra, Mitatrayate iti Mitraha. In times of distress, the person who is with us, Samanataka Sakha. That means one who is equal in happiness and distress with us, who is a Sakha to us. Then I spoke about different terms like Dhara, about Patni, about Kalatra, Ardhangini, so many. We considered all that, correct? Why I spoke about this to tell you that this is what we are actually looking for. Patni means, for example, someone who is with us during Yajna, correct? So from this we understand. Then parameters to choose. I spoke about the Panchakosha, how there has to be matching at different levels. Then we spoke about how Brahma gets his 9 sons to Kartama Muni and how they get married to each other. Then I gave some other examples from the Mahabharata, like the parents of Bharata, Dushyanta, Shakuntala, or Satyavan, Savitri, etc., which told us about character and taste matching. Then I spoke about Varna and its impact, and I also spoke about Jyotisha and Karma. Finally, the last point I would like to speak is about being realistic. See, there are so many things in life which must match, then we are considered a good match. But in reality, everything perhaps may not be true. Correct? It will be very difficult. I mean, if somebody actually finds a partner like that, then that is great, where they match with each other in all parameters, in terms of looks, in terms of hobbies, intellectual pursuits. If that matching is there, it's really fantastic. It's great. Correct? They can spend their time together as husband and wife very nicely throughout their life. But in the real world, it doesn't become possible that we get everything in life, right? So that's why you look for, okay, you see what are the most important crucial things.
Priji, can you unmute yourself? Got muted. Sorry.
Was I muted all the time? I hope not.
No. Just now. I just happened now.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just saying that we have to be realistic also, and we have to make peace with whatever Deva has ordained us. Correct. So because I know sometimes some boys or girls, they spend so many years just in finding a match only. And I know many cases both in my relatives also and some in devotee community also. 15, 20 years they spend and they don't find anybody only. And eventually they remain unmarried only because of that. So that is not also correct. So too much, we should not try for perfection. Correct. Everything has to be there. It doesn't happen like that. I remember one of my friends, he wanted to get married. This was way back in 97, 98. So he told the marriage counselor, our ISKCON marriage counselor, that I want a girl who is very intellectual like me, because he was from IIT. So he said that I want a girl who is engineer from IIT or very, very professionally qualified doctor, etc. She should be very humble also, and she should cook at home. She should earn money. She should be very good looking. चुनाव condition बताया. Our marriage counselor, you know, devotee who was in charge of the marriage board, she said, Lord Brahma has to make such a girl for you, who has all these qualities that you're saying. She should be from some IIT or medical college, and she should be very humble, cooking at home. You don't get everything in life. Correct. Perhaps somebody who is like that, who has been very studious and who is working, they may not be very good in the kitchen sometimes. They may not be, just because it's not possible for one human being to have all kinds of traits. I'm not saying that necessarily they will not be, but generally, right? There is a principle of duality in life, where we may have some good qualities and some things we may not have that in our thing. Okay, so some girl may not be very good looking, but maybe she's a good cook. Someone may be very good looking, she may be very well educated, she may work well, very nice lady she may be, but she may just not be good in the kitchen. She may not be able to do all that. So maybe she will keep a servant and manage or whatever. But the point is, you don't get everything in one person so easily. So that's why you have to be realistic also. You have to make peace with whatever Deva ordains you. Okay, so okay, I'm not again saying that whatever first boy or girl you see, immediately jump and say yes. Maybe you look at some profiles, whatever are coming either in your family circles or through the ISKCON marriage board. But then at one point you have to understand that okay, these are the minimum things I'm looking for. If this is there, I'm just going ahead and getting married. Okay, and so you make peace with that Deva. Okay, though I will still say that one of the most important things is astrology match. Maybe because I'm biased towards astrology, because as a student of astrology, I tend to get biased towards that. But yes, at least whatever in your value systems are very critical, at least ensure that that much is there and then go ahead. Right. Yeah, thank you. So we can just take some questions now, if there are any questions.
Uh, yes, Prajit, there are a few questions. But firstly, I would really like to thank you because it, the good thing about you is you really reconcile Shastra and at the same time the practical realities. So it was wonderful to hear from you. So, Prajit, there are questions. So you will prefer questions on chat or this is directly also is fine for you?
Ask. Either way is fine. But if people want to ask, it's good because in a textual description, you may miss out some parts. So if
Okay.
somebody is there,
There is
so you can moderate and just say who's supposed to ask.
yes, yes, Prajit. So there was one first question. I think this is from Mataji that the first theme which you explained, it was more of a wife. It was a description of a wife. So can you please describe something about an husband, like about husband, what to see, like from a girl's perspective, how should be a husband be, and what should be his qualities?
Oh, okay, okay. There are girls also in this forum. I maybe missed that.
Yes, yes, good number.
So because I'm addressing Nityanand Sabha, I presume that primarily there are boys. So I spoke hence about. Yeah. So Pati, as I said, it comes from the dhatu called protecting. That is the meaning in Sanskrit. One who can protect, one who can nourish. Nourish what? If you ask the question, all aspects of life. It can be physical, emotional, financial, spiritual. See, basically, a girl looks for a hero, and that's what she needs. If you see, even some Karmi novel like Mills and Boons or something, you will see always a girl is looking for a hero who swept her off her feet. You may have heard this saying in English, right? She's looking for a hero. She's looking generally for someone she can look up to as an example, at least, if not in everything, at least in some aspect of life. That's why our Shastra generally says a girl should be married to someone who is superior to her. Okay, in age, in wealth, in looks, in every aspect.
This meeting is being recorded.
Can you unmute, Prachi?
Sorry. I just lost my internet for a minute.
No problem.
Yeah, yeah. So I was saying that a girl generally looks for someone who is superior to her, whom she can look up as a hero, at least in some aspect of life, if not all. See, ideally it should be all. Like if you see Sita getting married to Ram, or you see Rukmini married to Krishna, or any of these examples, Parvati getting married to Shiva, right? They always look for someone who is superior, who is having some attractive feature. Okay, at least that means attraction, as in who has something that she's looking up to, so that he can provide her with that. Does it make sense? Yeah. So that is actually connected to that word pati also. I said pati, right? Pati comes from this term called maintaining, patya. So it comes from that. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, Prachi. Ambi, can you ask a question? Ambi.
And just regulate who will ask.
Uh,
Yes, yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I just texted you personally.
What happened is that because I got exited
Uh,
the meeting, I think
Okay, I have a question. I have her question. As an astrologer, 32.5 guna was matching, but in courtship period, realized basic understanding not matching. What should we consider? And if both are both are in Krishna consciousness, so Kundli can be. I think this question is little incomplete. So,
understood. Yeah. See,
yes, yes.
both are Krishna conscious. First of all, Kundali cannot be bypassed. See, because I have a very strong perspective in it that karma is very strong. Karma, our own karma, our own nature is very, very strong. It doesn't allow us to escape from that reality so easily, also. It will push us to act and do things in certain ways. So, see, if one is truly transcendental, I know karma will not work. But the fact is that we are not transcendental. We are limited by our own, what shall I say, we have our own limitations. So I think we should be very, very conscious of this. That's why astrology is important, because it ensures that karma matching. And as far as courtship period is concerned, I have also seen this, that sometimes the boy and the girl, they pick up too much fights in the courtship period only. So
Mm.
too much familiarity also shouldn't be there. There has to be some respect. Sometimes the boy and the girl too much, they mingle freely with each other. I know many cases. I know cases of marriage which broke in the courtship period only. Because astrology is one thing, but then there is proper human behavior also, correct? So sometimes people, so see, that's why you cannot put everything on one basket. If astrology matches, then nothing you have to do and automatically your marriage will work. I will not say that, because your prayasa also should be correct. Now, see, basically, please remember, Gita works on 2 points. One is Purushartha, one is Daiva. Daiva is your astrology, your karma. Purushartha is your effort. You cannot forget either of it. You cannot say because my Purushartha is very strong, Daiva doesn't matter. Neither can you say my Daiva is so strong, so I will not do anything properly. So both has its importance. So that is why even if your Kundali matches, you can still ruin your family life. I have seen that also. Recently, I saw one marriage. That marriage match is not so bad, but they're actually doing very bad in life, and that is because of certain behavioral issues with the man and woman. So it's not like that. So you cannot just take one thing in life. You get my point, no? Both have its importance. How you behave with each other also is very important. So that is the answer to that. Yeah. Any other question?
Madhumangal Kanai Mataji.
Hare Krishna, I am Uttamangi Lakha Devidashi. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Please accept my humble obeisances. I am from Bangladesh. So thank you so much, and I am feeling very blessed by attending in this session. So my question is, we have learned about several charms of wife as Patni, Mitra, Sakha. And
But this
Prabhu,
you will have to get closer to your mic. It's not so.
Actually, she's not audible. Her
Yes.
audio has to be rectified. I'm unable. There's too much. Maybe you can type and send Mataji. So
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, am I audible now?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Prabhu, you have discussed about several terms of wife as Pati, Mitra, Sakha. And Prabhu, you discussed that how a wife have influence in taking decision and such events. So my question is, in Shastras, women are taught to be very subordinate, and it is expected not to be a decision maker from women. It is expected. So how can wife balance these two roles? Hare
okay.
Krishna.
Thank you. Okay. See, I would say that sometimes we have a. Okay, let's go back to Shastra only. If you go back to Shastra, you will see several examples where wife and husband have a very good conversation, also dialogue. This idea that she is subservient, as in she has no say in decisions, that's not so correct. Also, it's not absolutely correct. I'll tell you. If you see the Mahabharata, for example, Draupadi, she fires her husband on several occasions. She chastises them, saying that all of you are useless. Or she chastises Yudhishthir Maharaj like anything after that gambling incident, saying what nonsense you did. I mean, literally fires him left, right, and center. So it's not like that. Even Sita, if you see in the Ramayana, on several occasions it will happen. When Ram is about to go to the forest initially, she's initially saying, I'll not take you. Oh my God, she calls him a eunuch. She says that तू तो मर्दी नहीं है actually. पता नहीं किसके साथ मेरा पिताजी ने विवाह किया मेरा. I mean, very strong language she uses, and she ensures that her say is taken into consideration. And Ram finally agrees. He says, okay, okay, you want to come, they'll come. I will not say too much now. And you see that in the forest also in the Aranya Kanda. So this whole, see, at some level we have to understand this man and woman are at equal level also in our scripture. And you will see that it's not one or two examples. In the Upanishads, there are examples of husband wife sitting and discussing Shastra. You will see Shiva Parvati. So many places there is dialogue between Shiva and Parvati in the scripture. Okay, so this idea of subservience, see, it's culturally like that. It is culturally like that, but in the private space, it is not like that. Culturally like that means generally, in a public setting, it is kind of maybe culturally expected to see the man taking an upper hand in certain decision making, etc. But in their private space, as a husband and wife, they are equal only. It is never like that. That in the private space, because how can that happen like that? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. As a human being, everybody needs their space. Or if nothing, at least this much you have to accept that the man may have his own circle where he takes decisions, and the woman may have her circle where she takes decisions. I mean, just to give a simple example, maybe that sounds a little gender specific, but I'll give that nevertheless. Like where to invest money, where to how to build one's property, etc. Maybe the man may take like that decision prominently. Of course, if the wife is having that very good Vaishya tendency and she can give good advice, why not? But I'm just giving an example. And in terms of maybe how to deal with the children, how to, what items to cook, what should be purchased, how the house should be decorated, correct? So that the woman must have the say in that. So my point is, in general, both the parties should have some say in some aspects of life. Right? It cannot be that every decision is made by the man only and the woman is just like a slave nodding head to everything. It doesn't work actually. I mean, anybody will get frustrated. Like this in our Shastra also, there are no examples. Even if you go back to the marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, initially Devahuti is married and she is apparently okay in the whatever humble setting. But eventually she says that, Arey, I'm brought up in a palace. I want a good place. I want good facility. Like this, how long I will live? And then he also understands that I have married a princess, not some ordinary girl. She may be devotee, but she's princess devotee. Mahal mein paida hui ho. She's not someone who will live in a jhopdi on the bank of a river. But Kardama Muni is a big yogi. So with his yoga shakti, he creates a huge palace and they have a good time over there. So my point is, in all our Shastra, you will never see that the woman has no decision making in aspects of life, whether it is the house, whether it is how to live life, children, and so on. ऐसा कभी नहीं.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Thank you, Prachi. There are a couple of questions on astrology. One devotee is asking if, let's suppose, it is also said that if full patrika is matching, like all 36 gunas, then also it's not recommended by astrologer to go ahead. So how to understand, like what gunas or what number should be there for a good match?
No, no, it
And
is
one
not.
more question is,
I have also seen where somebody has very high number matching. That number thing is there in a 36, 36. It may be 32, 33, but it is divorce. So some parameters. So I think that such questions, see, you will have to get into the detail of the two patrikas and say. For that, see, this is some knowledge where you will have to access a proper astrologer only and confirm that. I don't think this computer generated idea of matching the numbers and saying that more than 18 or more than 30 surely is good. It is not like that. There can be one parameter which is so critical that is causing a problem in this patrika. And it can be so terrible that just that one thing could devastate everything. And like that is there in astrology. I have seen that myself. So I don't think you can go with certain numbers like that. It's not, you can't make it so objective also. You will need a subjective teacher. See, it's like a doctor. You need a doctor only, na? Like you have to go to a doctor. See, you can do diagnosis. You may have X-ray or CT scan, whatever done, but the doctor has to see and interpret it and say how serious this is. So I think you need an astrologer who can tell you how serious this is. So look for someone who is educated in it. And there are many good people around. Yeah.
yes. Nine Bro, please ask.
Rohit Prabhu, you can just guide.
Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful session. My question is, I'm having two questions. The very first question is, it is oftentimes heard that the husband is considered as good as a guru to wife to give directions, and also it is said that whatever spiritual credits that one is having is shared almost 50% with the wife. So she's responsible for all because being a guidance, being a guardian, and the one who gives directions, he is responsible for even the actions of a wife. So in case if there are some mistakes that are committed by wife, then it is the husband that also shares the reaction. But in case if husband himself does anything wrong, then wife is not responsible for that. And I also heard that if something good is done by wife, then only she gets the credit, and if husband does something good, then he has to share. So can you please shed some light on this?
These principles are there because see, culturally, if you see, and it's true in so many ways also, the husband is pati, na, patya. He's the maintainer. See, when you take, if you go back to the Sanskrit, as a maintainer, even today you see in court also. Let's leave our shastras. Even if you go to America, you will see that if the you know when a divorce happens, the man has to provide alimony to the wife. He has to provide alimony only. The concept of alimony, it is not only in India, it is there everywhere in the world, correct? Because see, that becomes the basic definition of a husband. He is the maintainer. Maintainer matlab maintaining all aspects of life. So what you see in alimony in the outside world, in any country, I'm sure you know this, right? In any country, if a divorce happens, who pays alimony to whom? The man only pays, right? To the wife, by and large, everywhere. Because that is coming from that role of the maintainer of the husband. You cannot separate it from. See, in modern times, we are talking only about alimony, which is financial. But Shastras are talking overall, financial and even karmically. Because he's supposed to maintain her and take care of her needs. So whatever, so see now traditionally also what would happen, I will tell you, a woman generally had a lot of work to do. You see, even if you see 100 years back or whatever, right? If you see 100 years back in India, in Gaudiya Math, in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's Gaudiya Math, he would give initiation to women only 4-round chanting. Man had 16-round chanting. Do you know that? 100 years back in India. Why was it like that? Why was the same rule not applied to the women? She should also chant 16 rounds. Like Prabhupada's sister, Bhavita Rani Mataji, she was initiated by Saraswati Thakur, 4 round chant. Why? Because she had so much work at home. Women had so many, they would have half a dozen children, they would have to take care of the kitchen, take care of so many things. They would not be able to do all the dharma karya. So the husband would do more dharma karya externally, more japa, he would sit 2 hours doing puja. But if the wife is also every day morning going to sit 3-4 hour puja, who is going to do the work? Now, see, in modern times, some of these terms, some of these concepts have gone away because we are living in nuclear family. बच्चे ही नहीं है most लोग होंगे या एक ही बच्चा है या the wife is also working. Gender equality has come in many places. But you just go back even 100 years back in India. How was Indian society organized? So how was society all over the world organized? I'm not saying only Indian society. Even in Europe and America, society was like this. Are you getting it? That the man was engaged in outer work and the woman was engaged in inner, right? I mean, house related work. So not that she was unemployed per se. Again, this concept of housewife means sitting only in the 4 walls is not so correct. Woman had her resources also. If you go to the Mahabharata, it is very clear. The Mahabharata defines, the word dowry is defined as Sridhan in Mahabharata. Sridhan means it is money given by the girl's father to her, which the man and his family has no right on. That is her share of property that she has. And she could spend it any way she wishes. And that goes to her children later in life. Such concepts are there in our scripture. So why I'm saying this is, so women had a lot of things to do in the house, in the surroundings, etc. So the man would do externally more japa, more yajna, things like that. But it is a teamwork. In a teamwork, both parties get equal credit, right? How can you say just because the man is doing 2 hour yajna and the woman is sitting in the kitchen and cooking or changing the diaper of the baby or something, she is getting less credit spiritual and this fellow is getting more credit. So our Shastra gave such a direction that whatever punya the man does, 50% goes to him. You have to understand the context of it. And if you see Indian society even 50 years back or anywhere in the world, let me tell you, it was like this only. Radhanath Maharaj also says that his mother only took care of all of them in the childhood, just like most mothers in India traditionally do. The father went to business. So that is how it was. In the gender equality, what has happened, unfortunately, the roles are not clearly defined. See, ultimately, the woman only has to have baby, man cannot have baby. Gender equality, can you say, चलो तुम 2 बच्चे करेंगे, एक आप करो, एक मैं करूँगा, ऐसा तो नहीं. 9 महीने आपको ही बच्चा पेट में रखना पड़ेगा, मैं तो नहीं रख सकता ना. So gender equality fails at child only. So it is a teamwork, and because it is a teamwork, and because certain things are done more by the man, dharma karya. Like I told you in Saraswati Thakur's Gaudiya Math also, the man was chanting 16 rounds, wife was chanting 4 rounds. Now you tell me in such an environment, can you say that the wife is doing less spirituality than the man? No, you cannot. Because it's a teamwork. The man is chanting 16 rounds because his wife is there to help him out, man. Otherwise, how the hell is he going to do that? So you have to understand this. Okay? So that's why these concepts were there. That 50% iska punya usko jata hai. And papa karya when a man does, he does outside his house. Even today there are many houses where they're vegetarian in the house because the wife cooks only vegetarian food, but the man goes outside and eats meat. How is the wife responsible for that? He's not responsible. He only gets his part. So things like that. Is that clear?
Yes. Really, it's 12:30 and we have 4-5 hands raised and some questions in chat also. How much time you wish
No,
to
I have. It's holiday. If anybody wants, they can leave, but we can continue for half an hour.
Okay. So there are two questions. Matlab, if I try to paraphrase and ask, it's like nowadays, traditionally, it was, as you mentioned, it was more of they used to check jati and karma, and that was sufficient. But nowadays, there is a need of meeting and all those things. So sometimes during meeting, a boy and girl may get attracted or attached to each other in some way, but then situations, sometimes some unfavorable things comes up, matlab, which is not helping. So I mean, how should be ideally before when we're trying to see a match, how the meeting should be so that the sanity is maintained and at the same time tradition is also taken care.
Yeah, I would say that first of all, in such meetings, na, we should not cross certain boundaries. Okay, so increasingly in today's world, sex before marriage has become very common. And sometimes even a boy and a girl, even if they're devoted, they may feel that anyway we are going to get married. So what difference it makes if we, cross this boundary also? No, so that marriage has a sanctity, and don't cross those boundaries. Correct. So things like that are strongly recommended. So basically, you don't meet too much in private in a place like a hotel room or something, because then automatically one person would be tempted to do some things, cross certain boundaries. So at least I wouldn't. I come from a more that background, so I feel one shouldn't cross that boundary. But otherwise, yeah, you can meet and spend time, kind of, just go out in public places, talk to each other. The talking is mainly from understanding each other better, understanding each other's aspirations, goals, family background, childhood, just to connect the hearts together. That's a very sweet time where you have that. But again, it should that over familiarity. Na, I am again because I saw 2 3 cases. Courtship period, they spoiled their whole relation only, and the marriage got cancelled 2 days before marriage. I've seen like that couple of cases because too much they end up fighting also, which is which is a challenge. So you need to know how to deal with each other respectfully. Yeah, some points.
Kaushik Prabhu, please ask your question.
Am I audible, Prabhu?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Prabhuji, I have two questions. Like, suppose you said like horoscope match. So suppose I have the horoscope, like my parents noted down everything, time, place, where and what time. But other match that is going to come, they don't know properly their time exactly, but they know their date approximate. So in that case, how we should go for the horoscope match?
So then
And
it's
second
very
thing, second
difficult.
question.
Yeah, I'll answer one by one. If you don't have the exact date time, na, then the horoscope is not perfect. Then it doesn't make much sense. Then at least if they know their nakshatra, there is something called nakshatra matching. In India, there is a concept of nakshatra. People know their nakshatra. Rohini, Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika. People know their nakshatra. Then at least nakshatra matching you can do. If you don't know the full horoscope. Okay. But nakshatra matching
Okay.
you can do. But if you don't know nakshatra also and you don't know the time only, you only vaguely know the day, then it is very difficult because in a day there are 12 possibilities for the lagna as we call. And every possibility changes the whole chart only completely. So then it is like there's a shooting in the dark. Then you just go by whatever is physically seen and possible. If it's not there,
Okay.
then what? Then don't look at it only. Well, as then there's no question of looking. If you don't have the horoscope, then what are you going to look at?
Mhm. Got it. Got it. And to the second question that I have, that nowadays that we are seeing, right, the laws in the country and everywhere that is more kind of female oriented. Female means like in case of divorce and that false allegation happens to the man, and the man has to pay some 50% that alumina, that whatever you are mentioning, and that actually that hampers the that financial condition of that man that is carrying, because if false allegation comes, he has to pay that 50% or whatever that amount that he gets. So in such case, that is it not that safe side that before getting into the marriage life only, I should allocate one trust on my name and I allocate my asset on that, so that in some case in future if that kind of thing happens, so I'll be safe side, like creating a will or something like that, where I can allocate some amount of money for, I mean to say, if you get my point.
I understand. I mean, I do get the background of the question. It is unfortunate because one thing I tell you that when we enter any relationship, there has to be a positive way in which we enter. If we enter thinking that if divorce happens, how much money this lady is going to steal from my house. If we start a relation like that, then that is quite, what shall I say, counterproductive and not an ideal way to begin something. But still, I appreciate your point because we have seen so many people suffering due to so many types of allegations. in Hindi they say na दूध का जला छाछ भी पीता है, right? Somebody who got burnt by drinking some hot milk, even buttermilk, is flowing it and trying to make it. Because of bad experiences, we feel like this. So if somebody has had too many such experiences in their friend circle or whatever and feels the need, they may. But I would say that best to begin a marriage on a very positive note rather than right thinking about this. See, even at the end of the day, even in India today, they say divorce rate is less than 5% only. Most marriages are still doing pretty well. Then I have seen in our community also in Pune and places that I have seen some divorces and some problems. 90% marriages are doing well. Well, as in they are running nicely only, and some of them are running very well. Right. So let's take inspiration from that. Let's look at that.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
Priji, there is a question. Is spouse already pre-decided? Is it prarabdha?
It is prarabdha, but you don't know that. So you have to do your work. See, this concept of prarabdha, please try to understand in our scripture. This is reflection. Reflection means, you know how it is like after you have done everything, you reflect back and you think the money that I got was my prarabdha. But you cannot start your career like that. Okay, according to my prarabdha, I'll get, so I'll do nothing. I'll just simply sit. Somebody will come and give me a job letter in my house. No, you have to work hard. You have to go to college. You have to get a job, earn money, everything. But at the end of the life, you will analyze, na? ठीक है पूरा जिंदगी काम किया I earned only whatever this much money. That is prarabdha. Prarabdha is a reflection. How do you know your prarabdha? Similarly, life is prarabdha. That is correct. But how do you know? So that doesn't mean that you just marry someone on the street saying that okay, this is if my prarabdha is there, then this only girl will be my wife. Just marry someone and say this. No, you try your best. You do astrology, you do everything, and you marry the right woman. And then when the marriage has happened, you see that as prarabdha. So prarabdha is a reflection. It is not a decision-making parameter. Is that point very clear?
Yes, yes. Sanskriti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji from Pranam. Prabhuji, my question is, how do we save ourselves from the I am going to get married consciousness?
No, I didn't understand. But what is that consciousness you're referring to?
No, like now if you're about to get married or you're, in 2-3 years you'll get married. So everybody, in the temple, all the Matajis and oh, she's going to get married. They keep talking about that. In the girls group also we're talking the same thing. So eventually, if you look at anybody, oh, is he good? Oh, like, constantly, even in the temple, the consciousness goes like that. So how do we avoid it?
Yeah, I will take another perspective on it. I will say that it is, in some sense, very important. Okay, I'll ask another question. Is it important to have a very big marriage? As in, like you see, in India, generally, shadi बहुत धूमधाम से होती है. Why do that? Why not just keep it very simple or something? Once we asked this question, I think Raghunathan, he said that big marriage is done in India to give a big sense of responsibility. That hey, look, this is a big thing. There is a big responsibility in it. Don't take it casually. Correct. So this whole thing in our Indian culture of marriage being a very big thing where everybody talks about it and you're building it up. I think that has its importance also. The importance of that is it gives you that sense of responsibility that you are entering this aspect of life where you got to take it seriously, where you have to make it work. Whatever sacrifices are needed, whatever adjustments are to be done, you have to do that. Then only it's going to work well. It's not. Increasingly, it is becoming more difficult because people are brought up in smaller families where we are not used to adjusting. Many people are brought up without a sibling. So you have never shared anything in your life, right? Increasingly, children are single child parent. So single child parent, what happens? They have never shared anything with anybody. All the toys, all the sweet, everything was for them. Now suddenly there is somebody in life who is going to share everything with you. So you feel, Array, what is this? My personal space is gone. So increasingly what is happening in today's world for a variety of reasons is that sustaining a marriage also has become very difficult. So I would say that this kind of thought process of building up the entire tempo for the marriage is in some way important. Okay, but it should be done responsibly. In our general Indian culture, I'm saying, not among devotees, sometimes we see that too much focus is on the event also, like pre-wedding shoot out and this and that. Too many things they do big, but then they don't give importance to the main thing, which is to align with each other. Yeah. But my thoughts on it.
So there were questions, Praji, like with this engagement, like which is something seems to be a modern concept. Is it authentic activity or not? There are a couple of questions on this, but you did mention about it now,
Yeah.
like ring ceremonies.
No. It is. There is reference for it. Like if you go back to the Bhagavatam, when Brahma is bringing the 9 daughters, he's saying to Kardama Munina that you please
Mhm.
match them according to their temperament and nature, and then do the marriage. So that means before the marriage, they take some effort to ensure that that temperament and the likings are matching. Correct.
Right.
You see that. It's not that you don't see that at all. Like Satyavan and Savitri in Mahabharata. Savitri goes around, meets Satyavan, and understands he is my husband, and then comes and tells the father, "Mujhe isse shaadi karni hai." So basically, when you say engagement, it means before marriage they had some interaction or something. It may be small, big, whatever. Correct. You see that. You see many. If you dig deeper, you will see the examples where prior to marriage some kind of communication has been there, which made them confident that this is the person I want to marry. But more than anything, see, let us understand, more than anything in modern times, I am saying it is a little more important also because see, previous times, now people would get married early in life, right? Early in life, like literally like children. So then what happened was adjustment was more easy also. So nowadays, what is happening is most people are getting married at a on a higher side of the age, correct? Even girls get married only when they are 20, 25-year-old, boys are 28, 29. So they have very strong conceptions about life. So adjustment, it needs a little bit more time and effort. So spending that some time together actually helps a little more. See, you cannot go back and say everything will I find a reference a shloka in a shastra. You'll have to see how modern trends are working. In Shastra, generally, the recommendation was that, a Shudra gets married by 12, a Vaishya by 14, a Kshatriya by 16, a Brahmana by 20. So, but everything in teenage only, by and large. So, boy is 17 or 18 and girl is 12, 13. Then adjustment is also relatively easier. It's not because they don't have so much conditioning of this life also. They're small only, right? So they adjust each other in the marriage. But today that becomes more challenging. That's why that becomes more important. The courtship, I mean, that engagement that.
Yes. There is a question.
There are two devotees with raised hand. If you want, you can allow
Okay.
Mahesh and
Yeah. Umang bro, please ask a question.
Hare Krishna, Puri. Humble senses.
yeah.
Puri, I just want to know, Puri, there is a tendency of dishonesty among oneself, Puri. A devotee develops due course of time, like because we learn that fake it till you make it. So we learn kind of dishonesty among ourselves. We are dishonest about our samskaras or about koshas and everything. So a person cannot express only. So the responsibility to even like identify that other person is dishonest is also a very difficult thing. In a meeting of like 1-2 meeting, even for a long meeting also, it's very difficult to find out that he is dishonest or she is dishonest. So do you have any thoughts on that, Puri, how to know about it? Because without living together, it's very difficult to know. But that will be too late.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with the observation. That's why more than meeting each other, some third party verification helps. Generally, if you see marriages in India, the way they worked was the boy and girl had to get married, they would ask some family relative who knows them closely. Correct? Why they would do this? Because of this reason only.
third party can more objectively say something, which, because they have seen the person from more close quarters. So that is also a very important parameter. You talk to someone who knows the family. Are you getting my point? Yeah. Because they will objectively say something which you may not be able to find out, and the party directly will not tell that. It has its importance. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, bro. Mahesh, bro?
Thank you, Prabhu. Are we able to hear, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Prabhuji, you mentioned that one of the best criteria is in that you mentioned one factor is to get married in the same Varna and Jati, but because they are close in their cultures. But another factor, what in my personal life also, Prabhu, my community comes from South India, but primarily majority of my life I was born and brought up in Maharashtra, so northern part of India. So basically in my habits also I most of have habits of around North India. So even if we want to connect with someone from our community, they are in South India. So in that case, like because in my elder brother's case only, we are both we have habits of Northern India, whereas his wife has South India. So there is some friction, some difficulty during marriage time. Also, we were little uncomfortable with the habits and the way of dealings with the other party. So how should we consider this in Varna Jati system?
I did make that point that this Varna Jati has become slightly corrupted in today's India due to a lot of migration or if that is the case, if we are too cosmopolitan, then we'll have to consider that also. Jati means someone of the same type of social background. If your social background only changed due to migration and everything, then you will have to look like that only. You cannot go to just the birth social group. I agree with your observation. You will have to see that.
Your voice was in a lower side, project. It was audible. Okay. So there's one question, like to find our ideal match. To what extent we should, where is the line which we should draw, because we don't end up having too much of expectation, and what should be the ideal age difference between boy and a girl?
No, age difference, it's very difficult to say. I mean, we generally say 2 to 4 years like that, with the boy being on the elder side. But again, I'll tell you, I mean, it's very difficult to call this only as ideal and everything else as non-ideal perfect. Because in our parents, grandparents generation, we have seen 15 years, 10 years difference, and they did very well in their life. So again, age difference, yes, it cannot, nowadays nobody will accept like that, 15 years difference between boy and girl. Though in our previous generations, we did see like that, people getting married and doing well also. Not that they just got married. They did very well also. Today you see that only among Bollywood stars. Their age difference is 10, 20 years and they get married and apparently they are, jolly about it. But in most middle class families, the trend is to see either same age or just a couple of years difference. It is okay. It is fine. But see, we have to remember one thing. The girl's age is important because of her childbearing capacity. See, if you see generally the woman, after 35, it becomes challenge for her to have children. And if you consider marriage, one of the most important goals is to have progeny. So that being the case, the age of the girl is important. I mean, I'm not saying that the man can be 50 years and be married a 20-year-old girl, obviously. But the point is, even if the man is like 32, 33, he can still have good children. But if the woman, once she crosses 35, etc., then the ability to become pregnant and have a child, etc., that becomes more challenging. That's my only point. So that becomes a consideration in age. I hope you get the point.
Yes. Can you be a little closer to mic? It was not so audible. You were able to hear me, but yeah, thank you, Praj. So there is a question, Praj. Nowadays, in their early age, only boys and girls get into some kind of relationship, maybe before Krishna consciousness. So now, maybe within devotee community one may not find, so one may search within their own community. And so is it a good question to ask, like, about if the about your to be spouse, about their previous relationships? Is it, or to clarify about that thing, so is it a good thing to ask, or we should not much get into that?
If one has honestly led a clean life, I think one has the right to ask.
Sorry, bro.
If one has led a clean life oneself, one has the right to ask them.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Uh, there's another question that I think it you addressed it, but what's the best age for a boy or a girl to get married, considering today's modern situation?
The Mahabharata says that Bhishma tells Yudhishthira that if a girl is not married within 4 years of her puberty, she should run away with a boy. Generally, girls achieve puberty at 13 or 14. In Mahabharata, Bhishma is telling that by 18, if you are not married, you should run away. So when I read that, I realized that most girls today are actually following what Bhishma says, they're running away. So, that is psychology. So early marriage is good, but I accept that nobody can get married at 18 hours. Okay, but I would say that a boy between 25 and 30 is still a good age in modern times also. At that time, career is settled, etc. And the girl between 20 and 25, and boy 25 and 30. And keeping that 5 year gap only from children perspective, so that they can have children next. So marriage is for that, and you need to have progeny. And that's a very big issue, social issue. Not having enough children and delaying that too much, infertility. These are big challenges in today.
Priju, your thoughts on working wife or non-working wife? There are a lot of opinions in devotee communities. So,
No, I would say that see that depends on nowadays working has become important for both parties for many reasons. One is because living in urban world has become economically very difficult for people. It all depends on what is the social financial status. Okay. But one thing, let me tell you, in today's world, there are a lot of job working from home kind of jobs available. I would say one thing, whatever it is, the wife, she has to give that importance to the children, to family, to home. And the man has to be the main person responsible for the money, for the outside, the responsibility. Having said that, both will share each other's responsibility. The man should also do something at home to help his wife, and the wife also may need to work for a variety of reasons, especially due to the urbanization and the need of the expensive living in today's situation. So that may be the case. But the first priority is still family. That means if you would ask me if a woman delays her children just for career, I wouldn't say that so much. I would say that have your children, maybe do some online job or something, and later when your children are little grown up, again you can restart your career. The point is that the woman's working should not interfere in the children and the family expansion process. For me, that becomes very important because that's a very important goal of family and dharma. Are you getting the point, no?
yes, yes, Priju. There's a question of about choosing an astrologer before choosing a partner. What one should see in astrologer, so, for to go ahead and consulting him.
Astrologer, well, there's nothing like to see it, astrologer.
I mean,
Basically,
and he's also asking if you have any, if you could recommend any specific astrologer whom we can
I mean,
talk
I don't
to.
want to be in a group. I know many people myself because I myself have one. Of course, I'm a student, but I'm connected to very good astrologers as well. Many very sincere astrologers around in the world. If you research yourself, you will find many good people. If not, even there are some devotees. They will point there.
Okay. And want to answer, like, what any specific thing we should check in with our astrologer? I mean, before consulting him.
Things I said, Nakshatra, this Lagna Rashi match, and the Dasha Sandhi. These three are grossly very important. But there are many other things in that. I personally am learning for more than a year, so I cannot just keep saying I will go into technical details of astrology. But you need a person to check and verify. It cannot be done on computer. You cannot rely only on that match.
What if we like some girl? Can we approach her directly?
This is
Is
the
the
last
question.
question that you have to understand.
Yes, yes.
See, uh, I mean, I cannot say, if you see, there are so many cases of yes also for this answer. Different like second I approach her directly only before. But it may not work also because you are liking whether it is connected to dharma. It depends on how well deep rooted you are in your own dharma. It is very difficult to say that I cannot say that you like any girl just go and propose to her. At least be ready to take the no in the right step.
Mm. Yes. Thank you so much, Priti. It was really wonderful interacting with you, as always it is. So we look forward to have you again. So let us thank His Grace Krishna Kishore Prabhu by loudly chanting without unmuting 3 times Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. Thank you, Praji. To devotees, those are asking for recordings. So Proji has recorded. We'll share it.